Hi guys, it's Charlotte and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new here. In today's video, we are going to be talking about how much time should you dedicate to SEO on your Squarespace website every month. And I'm jokingly using the number 10 hours a month. Can you do Squarespace SEO on 10 hours a month? Because for some reason that seems to be a number that everyone is always asking me about. And I'm going to tell you and also walk you through what I think is the appropriate answer to that in this video, because it's a really valid question. People want to know, how much time is this going to take? Is it something that they can realistically do? Is it something that is going to be time well spent? Is it worth it from everything? So we're going to be talking about all of that in this video here today. And let's get started. I'm going to begin by sharing my screen, as I often do. And before we dive into the main part of the video, I want to let you know or remind you that I have a free Squarespace SEO checklist that I have on my website. I'm going to link to it down below, so you can just grab it in the description if you're watching this video, or, it's here on my website. And basically, this is a totally free checklist, and it doesn't matter if you are a complete beginner at Squarespace SEO, or maybe you've been at this a little while, but you want to make sure that you haven't forgotten anything or left anything out, then this Squarespace SEO checklist is going to come in handy. It has been downloaded by what's the word? Several tens of thousands of people, like many, many thousands of people at this point. So you are in excellent hands, good company with this. And yeah, grab a copy of it. And no matter where you are with Squarespace SEO, it will be helpful. Okay. Sorry, there goes my little dog. There she goes, just, here on the lab. Okay, anyways, so let's answer the question here. Can you do Squarespace SEO on, let's say, 10 hours a month? Okay. And the annoying answer to that I bet you already know what's coming and you're going to get annoyed, is that it depends. Okay. And it depends. Let me break that down for you and also walk you through what I mean and some of the things to consider when you're looking at the number. Okay. So when it comes to Squarespace SEO, one of the first things that I always encourage you to think about is, where are you starting from? Have you done any SEO on your website yet? Is this something brand new that you're about to embark on the first time? Is it a brand new Squarespace website, or is it a website that has been live and existing for a while, but maybe now you actually want to improve SEO, optimize it, get it, up and running to its full potential? Those are going to be very different from, the way that we approach SEO for it. Another thing to consider too is how big is your website, right? Is this a really small little, maybe right now you only have 5 pages on your website, or are you maybe a site that's been up and running for many years at this point and you have a backlog of hundreds of blog posts or something, right? There's so many factors to consider about what you're working with. And so that's a really big thing to start with, is just what are you doing? So I recommend that to begin, you do an audit, and either you can do an audit by yourself. I think I've got a video that kind of walks you through the basics, or I would suggest you to work with a professional, me, obviously, but anyone really who will kind of help you to figure out what are you working with and what is the plan and strategy that we need to do for SEO, because that will help us to determine what is the number. Okay. And then from there, this is where I want to share my screen now and walk you through a couple different points of things that we might want to look at. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen again. And if we look at the website, I want to point out a couple different places on the website, and again, get you to think about your own site. And, if you have a pen and paper, you can make some notes as we're going through this, but I want you to think about these numbers as we take a look at it. Okay. So when it comes to your website and SEO, there's a couple different stages that happen. And the first stage is that we either create or optimize the pages on your website. Okay. And by creating or optimizing, let's again, kind of break that down. So if it's a brand new website, then you're creating everything from scratch and ideally thinking about, building them to be SEO friendly from the start. But maybe let's say you already have a homepage on your website and you're like, oh, this isn't really doing very much. It's not very SEO friendly. I need to make it better or something. And so in that case, what we're doing is we are trying to optimize the existing homepage on your website. And to optimize the existing homepage on your website, again, that could be making a few simple changes, maybe adding some location information, maybe structuring the part of your homepage where you talk about your services or something. So in this case, maybe some of those changes are pretty easy and won't take a lot of work. But other times I've seen, people have to spend, I don't know, like three, 4, 5, I don't know, however many hours to fix their homepage, right? Like they really need to give it an overhaul. So in that case, that's a big thing to think about because your homepage statistically is the page on your website that gets the most amount of traffic. So you really don't want to rush through that page. Then the second thing that I want you to think about for pages is also what I like to call the money makers of your website. So in this case, like use my website for an example. I have up here in the main navigation, I've got my work with me section, which is essentially my services page, like the overview that kind of shows people, oh, here's how you can work with me. Click here to learn about service number 1, or click here to learn about service number 2, and it goes to those separate pages. And those are like the big money makers for me. But I also have, here, I don't know, let me just show you. There's a link to my digital products, right? So you can go to my products page and view the different products that I sell on my website, right? Like these are really popular ones like my image guidelines for SEO, my website growth tracker, my spreadsheet templates, the video trainings that I have, whatever. And so each one of these has its own page and each page is optimized for SEO, right? And again, if you are starting to build those from scratch, then great, you're doing it properly from the beginning. But oftentimes for my clients or people I work with, you have to think about how can you fix those pages, right? But the nice thing about that, whether we're talking about the homepage or these moneymaker pages, right? Like the services, the product pages, whatever, events pages, if you're doing that, is that once you spend a bit of time optimizing those pages on your website, then they're kind of good, right? You fixed it, you've done the heavy lifting. So you can kind of think of it as like front loading. So maybe in the first month that you do SEO, yes, you have to spend more time fixing the homepage, the money-making services, product, event pages, whatever, but then they're good, right? So it's like you don't have to keep doing that work month after month after month. It's like you just do it at the beginning, and now that time is freed up and it allows you to work with other things. And that's kind of the same point too when it comes to the settings on the back end of your Squarespace website. That's a whole other really important factor to think about, but it's exactly the same, right? Like you fix the SEO settings on the back end of your website, your back end of your Squarespace website once, right? And then you can kind of like leave it. You don't really need to go back and tweak it or fix it unless anything changes on the page or the content, the layout, like all that sort of thing. So again, whether you're talking about like the homepage, the money-making pages, the settings, that sort of work gets done once and then is kind of left up. So if you're thinking back to our question at the beginning where it was like, can you do Squarespace SEO for 10 hours a month? Usually in month 1, I'm like, no, like it'll probably take you more than 10 hours to do that for month 1, right? Like to do those different sections, even just that I talked about, that will take more than, probably will take more than 10 hours, depending on the size of your website, but probably it would take more than 10 hours to do it, but then it's done and you can move on, okay? And now what does it mean to do ongoing SEO and how do we keep that up kind of like moving forward? Well, there's a couple different factors that I'm just going to go over briefly with you, but two of the main things that, once the main part of your website is done, now when we move on to kind of like ongoing SEO, what does that look like? The two main areas that we're going to focus on, at least in this video, are blogging, so creating content for your blog, and then also obtaining backlinks or, inbound links from other websites. And I'll just talk about that quickly because if you go on my, my blog, my YouTube channel, I have so much content about both of those topics, blogging and backlinks, but let me just walk you through that quickly, okay? So here, when it comes to blog posts, um, here on my website, you can see that right in the main navigation, I have a blog. And this is really helpful because each blog post that I create is another way that I can add my desired keywords to my website. It's a way to get traffic to my website, link the readers back to my services, my products, whatever it happens to be. So blogging is really important for me and it works very well. It is something that I absolutely prioritize in my own business, not only for SEO, but just overall as a main pillar for marketing my business. Blogging is wonderful. I love it. And if you're kind of like, what do I blog about? How do I set up a blog? How do I actually create SEO friendly blog posts and send them back to my services pages? Then again, take a look at the rest of the content that I have on my YouTube channel or here on my blog. Like there's so much to help you out to answer those questions. Okay. And so that's basically where it comes to blogging. And in this case, if you're kind of like, how many hours will it take a month? This is the part when moving forward, it depends on how aggressive your content calendar is going to be and how much time you're dedicating to each blog post. But let's say you're like, oh, I want to do, I don't know, 2 or 3 blog posts a month. Okay. Like one every other week or like, 3 a month or something like that. Then yeah, I think like you could do that in 10 hours a month, right? So in that case, yes, you could. Like blogging could be part of your ongoing SEO strategy. And moving forward, like that could fit under 10 hours a month. So in that case, amazing use of your time and really good ROI for sure on that front. And then the last point that I want to talk about is backlinks. Okay. And I have another video that talks a bit more about backlinks, but basically a backlink is anytime another website links to yours, right? So let's say I am, I don't know, like I'm a photographer, okay? I'm a photographer and let's say my local city magazine or newspaper or something, they do a feature about kind of like, you know, how to do family photos for the holidays or I don't know, whatever. And then your photography business is linked to it, right? In that case, remember like that website or that other like magazine publication, whatever, they're doing a link to your website. And backlinks are really good for SEO, right? Like amazing because they're great because Google sees you exist on other websites. They're like, oh, clearly the site must be good because they're being linked to by other legit, relevant, high quality websites. It does something called like improves your domain authority. And so having backlinks or, links from other websites is really, really good for SEO. But then we have to think like, how do we get those backlinks, right? And yes, every now and then someone will just graciously write about you or include you and you just get a backlink kind of at random. And that's always really cool when it happens. I'm not going to lie. Like whenever I see I have like a backlink, I'm like, oh my God, like love that. But many of the times the way that you are going to get backlinks is that you pitch yourself. And again, I've got like videos about that, so you can take a look at them. But if you are, let's say, reaching out to these publications or reaching out to be featured in a blog post or like a Q&A, or you want to get like a media highlight or something, you have to approach them and say, hey, here's who I am. Here's why I think I could be helpful to your audience, your readers. Here's why it would be useful to include me, anything like that. And again, this is a case of like, when you pitch yourself, it's really fun, I think, at least to do it, but it is work, right? Like it's work. And this is time spent on it, but it has huge impact on your SEO and is very, very valuable from like an ROI of online marketing efforts. And in this case, like doing the backlinks, if you're thinking again, using that number of like 10 hours a month, can you do backlink outreach in 10 hours a month? Yes, absolutely. So this is another case of it depends, right? Like maybe the first few months that you're working on SEO, you just focus on getting your website up and running, fixing things, optimizing the content, and then kind of later on, you can work more on the blogging and the backlinks and stuff because you don't have to be working on the page content itself. So this is what I always say. I'm like, there's a lot more upfront work, but then once you get the upfront work done, then you can move on to it. And it becomes a much more manageable amount to be working on month after month after month. But like I always say, SEO is like a snowball, right? It starts out small and then it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And the impact that you see and the ROI that you experience from your efforts with Squarespace SEO, chef's kiss. So anyways, I hope that answered your question, and also gave you a few examples that help illustrate why the answer is it depends. But yeah, if you have any other questions, like obviously you can get in touch with me. You can take a look at the content that I have here on my website, on my YouTube channel. You can grab a copy of that free Squarespace SEO checklist before you go. That will be really helpful for you as well. And anyways, yeah, just know that with Squarespace SEO, usually it's a bit of upfront work, but the ROI is always worth it, always worth it. And if you don't know where to start or you need a hand, you want someone to like point you in the right direction, just reach out, get in touch to me, and I'd be happy to help you. Or just take a look at the free content that I have too. But yeah, expect that basically it's a bit of front loading the work and then it will lighten off. Anyways, that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful for you and gave you a good idea of what to expect. And I will see you again soon in the next video. Bye.